Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. Back to do the 2025 vinyl tag. It's been out for a little bit now, and I've seen a number of different videos. And just a day or so ago, the last one I saw was JC over at the Flip Side did his response, and it just kind of got me pumped up to do mine. So I started pulling records for answers, and here's going to be my 2025 tag. And this was put up by the Pretty Green Vinyl Guy, and 20 straightforward questions. Let's just kind of jump right into it. Question number one: best purchase of 2024, new or old? Had two really good ones this year, and I think this is definitely the one that stands out the most. Um, OG copy of the Stooges Funhouse. I've been wanting to get a copy of this for quite some time, and I didn't want to get one that had, ringware. It was kind of rough, so I just kind of knew coming across an OG copy would be tough anyway. But then, not only did I find one in this condition, but a white label promo. Could not believe that. That was just like 15 cherries on the top of that cake. So yeah, definitely my most happy surprise for the year. Question number two: 50 years later, so the best album of 1974. With most of these picks, I tried not to overthink it and just kind of went with some of the first things that came in mind. And this was definitely one for 1974. Bad Company, self-titled. When Roger and the boys came on the scene with that awesome bluesy, almost soulful kind of rock, and just pure as can be right there. So that's one I think that represents 74 pretty well. An album that defines a genre. Of course, a lot of different genres. I thought I'd pick something maybe that I don't see talked about as much in the VC, just to keep it kind of fun. Bro country. There's definitely kind of a genre out there, bro country, that most people hate, and I think Florida Georgia Line is a perfect example of a group that represents that genre. So here's to the good times, and of course it has the big hit on here. This is how we roll with Luke Bryan. Again, I love the stuff. I think it's fun. I think it's just kind of it's the over poppy version of country, but really good stuff. But number four: best band from your home country. Well, I'm from the U.S., so obviously there's a ton of different bands and groups and artists there. So I just kind of thought, let me kind of get down into my area. So kind of around the greater St. Louis area is where I live. So there's great choices like Miles Davis, who actually kind of grew up in the town that has the record shop that I work at, Riverbend Records. I guess we got Chuck Berry kind of in the area, the Isley Brothers. But then I think I'm going to represent with Ike and Tina Turner. They're from around this area, so definitely a good representation of a couple of legends right there. All right, question number five: an artist you miss dearly. Almost went with Freddie Mercury, because I think he's the greatest rock and roll star of all time. When you go between stage performance, persona, vocals, kind of the whole nine. Even though Queen's music's not anywhere near being my favorite music, Freddie is the ultimate rock and roller, or rock and roll star, I should say. But I'm gonna go. I had to nudge Freddie out with Dimebag from Pantera. That's one I definitely miss, just in terms of someone that I would have loved to have seen live, and was just taken from us way too soon. And just the king of some of the most groovy metal that we've ever heard with Pantera. Same thing with Vinny too. But yes, I'm picking Dimebag for that question. Number six: best live album in your collection. I'm kind of mentioning the honorable mentions in a lot of these, but Neil Lofgren's Live is one that just didn't make the cut because of this one right here, Fleetwood Mac The Dance. I still think from front to back, this is one of the best live albums ever. Even a lot of the songs on here sound better than the studio versions of songs, with stuff like Silver Springs, and I think Rihanna's even a little bit better on here. The Chain is better on here. Just, I don't know. They're just still so tight, and gosh, just amazing musicians. So that's what I picked for the live album. Number seven: your partner just dumped you. What album are you putting on? In the spirit of the question, I'm gonna go with this, because I think we're kind of looking for more of like what some of your sappier, blah blah blah. And so I'm going with Seal's album here, his 1994 release. And one of the main reasons I would pick this one is because um, all the emotions that are tied up in this album, I love the way that Seal has the ability to sing and kind of bring forth sad subjects, but then also do it in a way where you feel empowered by the song. So it's not just all bringing you down kind of thing. So yeah, great album. I love this to death, and that's one I would pick. I think in a lot of cases too, though, I'm one that tends to operate off of the opposite emotion. So if I'm really sad, or if I were in a situation like that, I don't think to go dwell in more sad. Like usually, I'm going for more energy. So I'd be more likely to go spend like testament, practice what you preach, probably before I would even spend seal. But anyway, so question number 8: best sounding drums on an album. Again, number of good choices there. Actually, that the Dance by Fleetwood Mac would be one that I would pick, but I'm gonna go with Godsmack here, and pretty much anything off their first 3 albums I could say this about. But anyone that knows me knows that Godsmack's my favorite band, and it's not necessarily it's not odd to me that I would pick them, just from the standpoint that Sully, the lead singer and the guy who does most of the writing for Godsmack, he started off as a drummer in the first couple bands that he was in, and he's even said on a couple streams that he's done that he writes as a drummer. Like he sees all instruments as percussion instruments, guitars, drums, the whole nine. So it's not surprising that when you listen to the stuff that he's writing in his music, it's very kind of big drum groove oriented, and the drums are really allowed to kind of shine in the stuff that he writes. Um, Question number 9: favorite artist who is a member of 2 or more bands. I decided to go with a little Don Henley. I mean, he was with Linda Ronstadt, and he, went with the Eagles, obviously. Of course, his solo career. So, another one of the geniuses that we've had the pleasure of listening to all these years. Number 10, Beatles or Stones? Very easy for me. Stones all the way. I mean, that's one of the things I catch a lot. I've caught a lot of flack about, I should say, in the VC over the years, and in a nice, playful ways. 99 times out of 100, it's just nice, playful banter. But I've always been one that feels like the Beatles is just, for me personally, it's just one other average band that had a few okay songs here or there, but the whole just like Beatle magic is just something I've never caught. And I definitely prefer the Stones and kind of the way the Stones, bluesy here, rocky here, weird here. I just appreciate what the Stones did a lot more. Now, granted, I mean, I know the Beatles are the biggest thing to ever happen to rock and roll, and almost anyone who's ever picked up a drumstick or a bass guitar or, a lead guitar somehow was probably influenced by the Beatles and all of that. So I'm not saying that. I mean, that's a given. We know that no one has impacted rock and roll to that degree. Just their music to me personally, yeah. But anyway, let's move on to question number 11. You found a bag of weed. What are you going to listen to? Well, considering I've never smoked, I've never been drunk in my entire life, I've never done anything, so I don't even necessarily know the effects of being in that mindset. I'm just going to kind of go with Bob Marley. And the only reason I pick Bob over anyone else is just like, usually when I associate, again, never actually being high or anything at any point in time in my life, when I usually associate drugs or smoking weed and stuff like that, it's usually with like, partying, getting high, and, having a good time and all, and like blah, blah, blah. But I've always sensed like there's something with Bob where it was definitely something more, I'm not going to say spiritual, but like what he was doing was to take himself to a better place, to be a better person, to bring more love into the world. Like whatever he was experiencing with what weed or drugs did, he was actually truly using it not to have a good time, but to actually go to another level of something great for everyone that he came into contact with. And so I would think like if I'm going to experience it with someone, I probably want to experience it with someone that kind of gives off that vibe. So that was kind of my logic behind picking him. Question number 12: an album from the 1980s you still listen to. That's like half my collection. But the one I'll say specifically is this one right here, Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. I mean, I bought this cassette, the first cassette I ever bought out of the store back in 1984. I still have that copy to this day, and I still listen to this and enjoy it just as much as I did back in 1984. This is just one of my absolute top 10 favorite albums of all time, and it never loses its sting. Between Billy Idol and Stevie Stevens doing their thing on here, that's just a magical album. Love everything on it. Number 13, an artist whose political stance has soured you. Two that came to mind. Pink almost made the cut, but I'm actually kind of going with Madonna here. The one thing that I've always kind of said and I've always kind of lived by is that an artist's actions are not going to determine whether I listen to their music or not. Because the way that always makes me feel is that if an artist does something like in the public eye and everyone wants to, shame them or whatever else, it's like, I'm not going to let the bad act they did control my life and my choices. And if I want to hear a beat and I want to hear a song, I'm going to listen to it. They don't get to control my life because they decided to screw up. And I feel like the same thing politically, because you want to go a certain way politically, you don't get to control my life because of your politics. So I don't get rid of artists or, declare I'm done with artists just because I disagree with them politically. But just kind of plain and simple, like, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care if you're independent. I just think good, open debate and battling ideas is always a great thing. To do it out in the open, in the public square, let the best ideas come to the surface. And I believe that's the crux of most greatness. So it's when the people like Madonna and Pink and everything get to the point of, if you're disagreeing with me, F you, and don't come to my shows, and don't, like, that kind of stuff is like, you're the epitome of what the problem is. So she kind of soured me a little bit, but like I said, I'm not going to not listen to music or get rid of records or whatever else because she's chosen to go a certain way. Number 14, show a favorite record label. I don't actually have a clear, Blue Note label or blah, blah, blah. I think the most pure answer to that question for me personally would be, my favorite labels are white label promos. I love white label promos. There's nothing better than I love, like, upgrading a copy of something I had because I found a white label promo of it. So, yeah, I love the Blue Note label. Of course, the silver Megaforce labels, those original silver Megaforce labels and stuff like that is cool and blah, blah, blah. But I think ultimately, like I said, speaking for myself, white label promos are my favorite labels, period. So we'll go that way. 15, a run of 3 great singles. The first one that came to mind was this one here, which is Van Halen 1984. And I just kind of thought about, Panama, Jump, Hot for Teacher. Those are 3 pretty awesome back-to-back singles right there. So that's what we're going to go with for that one. 16, an RSD purchase that you actually consistently listen to. That would be the Sundays, Static and Silence. I mean, one of my most happy moments in RSDs over the past few years. Summertime is just a song that I never get tired of, and just a great, great album. Still spin that one a lot. What else? 17, you can be reincarnated as an artist, dead or alive. Who's it gonna be? This was one I gave some good thought to, and what I thought about was not necessarily the music that they played, but, and of course you think about only the positives, but like the musical experience that artist had. And like that, I would say I would love to have that musical path. And the one that kind of came to mind when I said that was Eric Clapton. I mean, he's by far not my favorite artist, and of course, it's so sad, the stuff that he went through with all the challenges between, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, losing his son the way he did, and all of that. I mean, just horrible stuff that you would not want to wish on any human being. Of course, sometimes it's that trauma that help brings out some of the greatness, but you just don't wish that on anybody. So I hate that stuff happened to him and his family and people in his life. But just looking at his musical path, it makes me think, if you were Clapton, you got to do and be right. You got to be right there in the Yardbirds thing, and you got to be right there with mall, and then you got to be right there with all the Cream stuff, and you were in the studio with Hendrix. You were cool with him. You were hanging out at George Harris's house, and he was coming over to your house, and it's like, oh yeah, you got to hang out, and you were making music with BB King, and it's just like you go on and on and on. Let's not forget about, oh yeah, Dwayne Allman and I are going to get together and do some stuff. It's like the path that he took and the artists that he got to interact with and be friends with and get to know and experience. It's like, geez, Clapton took an awesome road. And, he's performed here last year. So, still playing to this day. So you definitely want to take away some of that hardship that he had in his life, but just that musical path, I think is kind of hard to beat. So question 18, best 3 lines in a song. Ton of those, but one of the first ones that came to mind was off of this one here, which is the album The Script, and it's the song Break Even, which is a song that I love by them, which he's basically talking about, he and his girl have broken up and just kind of the different experiences that they have, and the fact that when a heart breaks, it doesn't break even. It's like the first 3 lines in the song are, I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing. Just pray to a God that I don't believe in, because I have time while she's got freedom. And then the next line, of course, is because when a heart breaks, it doesn't break even. But it's just something about those 3 lines. They just so perfectly capture, and you can just so feel the heartache and the place that he's in. Still alive but barely breathing, just like, feeling like he's right there at the end. But then that part about, just pray to a God that I don't believe in. Like, when does that happen? Like, usually when people are at their absolute end levels of hurt and pain or fear. When you have someone that doesn't have a faith or doesn't really have a belief, and all of a sudden you're catching them like sincerely praying to God that they don't even believe in. They always kind of say like there's no atheist in foxholes, because like when you're in the midst of war and you're about to get your head blown off, somehow you find a way to start praying because of the level of fear. And I guess like that is captured in that. He's hurting so bad that he started praying and he didn't even have a belief. And then again, that same thing. It's like, because I have time while she has freedom. Like, I'm sitting here just stirring myself away because the clock is ticking by so slow. And for her, she's like, yes, I have freedom. It's just such a powerful way to describe that hurt that takes place in probably most breakups. So I just decided to use those 3 lines there. An album you never tire of. And this is so funny because this actually kind of proved itself last weekend before I even looked at the questions or thought about doing this video. Sammy Hagar, VOA. Definitely an album I never get tired of listening to. Bought this way back in 85, I think. I think it came out in 84, but I think I bought it in 85. Listened to it to no end. And Saturday before last, I brought it to the shop again, and I was playing it. And Billy and I over at Riverbend Records, we played it. And when we got to the end, I actually said to Billy, I would play this again right now if people weren't in the store. But I don't want to just repeat the album all over again. I literally said that to him. And then I went to lunch, and Scott came in while I was off at lunch. And so Scott wanted to throw something on, and he grabbed this out and put it on the turntable. And I came back, and I was like, I literally told Billy I wanted to listen to this again, and I cannot believe you pulled it out and put it on. He's like, well, we can change it. No, I was like, no, I want to listen to it again. So it's proven itself for quite some time to be just an album that I never get tired of. Not only is it kind of fun, but it is that era of Sammy that I love, that mid-'80s. And I think the song Two Sides of Love is arguably Sammy's best song. Definitely one of his top 5 for sure. I mean, that song is just so rock, so like made for 80s soundtracks, even though I don't think it was in any of them. It's just one of those songs that could easily show up in Fast Times in Ridgemont High, or like anything like that. Man, he had a track on that, but still just awesome stuff. Never get tired of that. So last question, number 20, share your favorite VC channel. Don't have one favorite. I mean, there's just some guys that have just always do awesome stuff and that are great to listen to. Um, as I kind of mentioned about at the very beginning of this video, JC over at the Flip Side, love his channel. Chris Profe, another one you have to mention, especially those two with a lot of the shorts that they do. I mean, I would say probably half of the thumbs up and hearts that I've done in shorts over the past year have probably been to their two channels because they do so much awesome stuff there. Jeff Witcher, Gary over at Physical Format Rock and Roll. Again, just two awesome guys. Who else I need to shout out here? Billy Hurst over at Riverbend Records. Got to give a shout out to Billy as well. Jason spins vinyl, another awesome guy. You got Chance over at Concert Buddy. And like some of the guys too, maybe that don't really post videos, but I know that show me a lot of support on my channel. Joe Slam, someone I got to give a shout out to. Dimebag, I mean, just like there's so many people. If I start going, I'm gonna have to mention everyone because I feel like I'm leaving someone out. But I think all of those channels and all of those guys have just been like 6, 7, or 8 of the just many awesome people that I've had a chance to get to know and interact with here in the VC. And so I appreciate you guys to no end. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate you checking this out. As always, let me know what you think. Being in 2025, I'm going to come around and do my 2025 room tour. Not a ton of changes, but I mean, I just do one every year. So you'll see some of the updates that I have made. And as always, appreciate you guys watching, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.